The 17-year-old standing before me wouldn't make eye contact. His hands were shoved deep in his pockets, his shoulders hunched forward like he was trying to make himself smaller, invisible. Marcus Williams. The citation said shoplifting from a convenience store on Broad Street. $47 worth of items. First offense. His mother sat in the gallery, her face a mixture of disappointment and exhaustion that only a parent who's tried everything can wear. But something about this kid didn't fit. In 38 years on this bench, you develop an instinct for reading people. The career criminals have a certain swagger, even the young ones. The truly troubled kids have chaos in their eyes. Marcus had neither. He had fear, yes, but underneath it was something else, something I couldn't quite identify yet. "Marcus," I began, keeping my voice gentle, "this is your first time in front of a judge, first time being charged with anything. You're 17 years old, a junior at Hope High School. Your teachers say you're a good student. No disciplinary problems. So I need to understand what happened. Why would you steal from a store?" He didn't answer. Just stared at the floor. "Marcus, I'm talking to you. Look at me." Slowly his eyes came up. They were red-rimmed, like he'd been crying recently or hadn't slept. When our eyes met, I saw something that made my chest tighten. This wasn't defiance. This was shame so deep it had hollowed him out. "I don't have a good answer, Your Honor," he whispered. "That's not acceptable. The store owner wants prosecution. You took $47 worth of food and hygiene products. The security footage shows you concealing items in your backpack. This wasn't an accident. So I'm going to ask you again, and I want the truth. Why did you steal?" His jaw clenched. His hands came out of his pockets and gripped the edge of the table. And then, in a voice so quiet I had to lean forward to hear it, he said, "Because I was hungry." Those 4 words hung in the courtroom like a physical weight. Before I could respond, before I could process what that meant, Marcus's face crumpled and he began to cry. Not the angry tears of a teenager caught doing wrong, the broken tears of a child who'd been holding too much for too long. His mother stood up in the gallery, her hand over her mouth. "Baby," she said, but he wouldn't look at her. "If you believe that sometimes the system needs to stop and ask why before it punishes, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what this 17-year-old is about to reveal will break your heart and remind you that justice without understanding is just cruelty with a gavel." I raised my hand to the bailiff who'd started to approach Marcus. "Give him a moment." I turned to my clerk. "Miss Reyes, get him some water." She brought a cup, set it on the table. Marcus didn't touch it. He just stood there crying, his whole body shaking. I waited. In moments like these, patience is more powerful than any question. Finally, he wiped his face with his sleeve. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Don't apologize for crying. Apologize only if you're going to lie to me. Are you going to tell me the truth?" He nodded. "Then start from the beginning. Tell me about your life, Marcus. Tell me what's really going on." He took a shaky breath. "My mom, she works 2 jobs. She's a home health aide during the day, and she cleans offices at night. She leaves the house at 6:30 inches the morning, and doesn't get back until almost midnight most days. She's trying so hard. She's always trying so hard." I glanced at his mother in the gallery. She was crying now too, silently. "Go on," I said softly. "We live in a 1-bedroom apartment in South Providence. It's just the 2 of us. My dad left when I was 8. We don't hear from him. My mom gives me the bedroom and she sleeps on the couch. She says it's because she gets home so late she doesn't want to disturb me, but I know it's because she wants me to have my own space." He paused, swallowing hard. 2 months ago, her daytime hours got cut. The agency she works for lost a contract. She went from 35 hours a week to 18. We lost about $600 a month. That doesn't sound like much, but it's everything when you're already on the edge. I was listening intently now, and so was everyone else in the courtroom. We fell behind on rent, then behind on the electric bill. My mom had to choose: pay rent so we don't get evicted, or pay the electric so we have lights and refrigeration. She paid rent. They shut off our electricity 3 weeks ago. The courtroom went silent. We can't afford to get it turned back on because there's a $280 reconnection fee on top of the past due balance. My mom is trying to save up, but every time she gets close, something else happens. Last week, she got sick. Missed 3 days of work. No sick pay for home health aides. That was another $200 gone. Marcus's voice was steadier now, like telling the truth was actually helping him breathe. Without electricity, we have no refrigeration. We can't keep food. My mom buys things day by day, whatever we can eat immediately. Bread, peanut butter, things that don't need to be cooked or kept cold. She leaves me $3 or $4 most mornings for lunch, but I started skipping lunch and saving that money to give back to her. I told her the school lunch was enough, but there is no school lunch. I have $87 in unpaid lunch debt. They won't let me eat in the cafeteria anymore. How long have you been going without lunch? I asked quietly. 6 weeks. But it's fine during the week because I'm at school, I'm busy, I don't think about it. Weekends are harder. My mom works weekends too. I'm alone in the apartment a lot. No electricity means no TV, no computer charging, nothing to distract me. Just sitting there, hungry, trying to do homework by daylight or with a flashlight. He looked at me directly now, and the shame in his eyes was replaced by something fiercer. Honesty. Raw, painful honesty. Last Saturday I was so hungry I couldn't think. My stomach hurt. I hadn't eaten anything since Friday night, some crackers and a can of tuna my mom brought home. It was 3 p.m. on Saturday. I had nothing. My mom wouldn't be home until midnight. I couldn't call her and tell her I was starving because she'd leave work and lose the hours and we need every dollar. So I walked to the convenience store on Broad Street. I had $1.50 in my pocket. I bought a small bag of chips. I ate it in about 30 seconds. I was still hungry. I looked at the food, all that food on the shelves, and his voice broke again. I just wanted to not be hungry. I wanted to take food home so I'd have something for Sunday. I wanted bread and peanut butter and some granola bars. I wanted deodorant because mine ran out 2 weeks ago and I've been too embarrassed to tell my mom. I wanted toothpaste because we're sharing one tube that's almost empty. So I took them. I put them in my backpack and I walked out. I made it about 2 blocks before the store owner, Mr. Patterson, caught up with me. He'd watched on the security camera. He called the police. And now I'm here. Marcus wiped his eyes again. I know it was wrong. I know stealing is wrong no matter what the reason is. But, Your Honor, I was just so hungry. And I was so tired of being hungry. And I was so tired of watching my mom kill herself working 2 jobs and still not having enough. I just wanted one day where my stomach didn't hurt. The courtroom was absolutely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. I looked at his mother, who had her face in her hands, sobbing. I looked at the prosecutor, Jennifer Chen, who was staring at her notes, visibly uncomfortable. I looked at the gallery, where several people were wiping their eyes. Then I looked at Marcus Williams, this 17-year-old kid who'd just laid bare a level of poverty and hunger that most people in this courtroom had never experienced and couldn't imagine. Miss Reyes, I said, my voice rougher than I intended, do we have Mr. Patterson in the courtroom, the store owner? Yes, Your Honor, he's here to testify if needed. Ask him to approach. An older man, maybe mid-60s, stood from the gallery and walked forward. Korean-American, wearing a simple button-down shirt and slacks. He'd been in this country long enough to build a business, but his accent was still thick. Mr. Patterson, I said, you're the owner of the convenience store where this theft occurred? Yes, Your Honor. Patterson's Market on Broad Street. I own it 28 years. You watched Marcus steal on your security camera and you followed him. You called the police. You want prosecution. Is that correct? Mr. Patterson looked at Marcus, then at me. Your Honor, when I saw him stealing, I was angry. I work hard for my business. Shoplifting, it hurts me. It costs me money. So yes, I followed him. I called police. But then, he paused. Then I see what he take. Not beer, not cigarettes, not candy. He'd take bread, peanut butter, granola bars, deodorant, toothpaste, basic things, necessary things. And when police come and search his backpack, I see he has $1.50 in his pocket. Only $1.50. And I think, this boy is not a thief. This boy is desperate. Mr. Patterson's voice grew softer. Your Honor, I came to this country in 1989 with nothing. I was hungry many times. I know what that hunger feels like. It makes you do things you never thought you would do. I told police I wanted to press charges because I was angry. But now, hearing his story, I don't want that anymore. I don't want to punish this boy. I want to help him. I leaned back, processing this. Mr. Patterson, are you saying you want to drop the charges? Yes, Your Honor, and more. I want to give him a job. Stock shelves, clean, whatever he can do after school. $12 an hour, 10 hours a week. And I want to give him $50 store credit every week. He can take food, necessary items, whatever he needs. No charge. Consider it investment in a good kid who just needs a chance. The courtroom erupted in whispers. I raised my hand for silence. I looked at Marcus, whose mouth was open in shock. Then I did something I don't often do. I stood up and came down from the bench, walking over to where Marcus stood. "Marcus, look at me." He raised his eyes, tears streaming down his face. "What you did was wrong. Stealing is illegal, and you know that. But what you're experiencing, the hunger, the poverty, the impossible choices your family has to make every single day, that's not your fault. You're 17 years old. You should be worrying about homework and friends and what you want to be when you grow up. You shouldn't be skipping meals so your mother has more money. You shouldn't be sitting in a dark apartment because you can't afford electricity. That's a systems failure, not a personal failure." I turned to address the whole courtroom. This young man's story is not unique. There are thousands of kids in Providence, in Rhode Island, in this country, who go to school hungry every single day, who live in homes without electricity or heat, who watch their parents work multiple jobs and still can't make ends meet. And when those kids, out of desperation, make a mistake like this, what do? We arrest them. We charge them. We give them criminal records that follow them forever. We punish poverty as if it's a crime. Share this video if you believe our children deserve better. Comment below if you or someone you know has ever had to choose between food and bills, between electricity and rent, because what I'm about to do might not change the whole system, but it's going to change Marcus Williams' life today. I turned to Jennifer Chen, the prosecutor. "Miss Chen, what is the state's position now that Mr. Patterson wants to drop the charges?" She stood. "Your Honor, if the victim requests dismissal, the state has no objection. However, we'd typically still require some form of accountability. Perhaps community service or a diversion program." "Noted, but I'm going to do something different." I looked at Marcus's mother. "Mrs. Williams, please approach." She came forward hesitantly, still wiping tears. She was thin, worn out, probably in her early 40s, but looking 50. The exhaustion of working 2 jobs and constant worry had aged her. "Mrs. Williams, you're working 2 jobs? Approximately how many hours per week total?" "About 55 to 60 hours, Your Honor. Sometimes more if I can get extra shifts." "And what's your monthly income after taxes?" She hesitated, embarrassed. "About $2,100, maybe $2,200. And your rent?" $1,350. I did the math quickly. After rent, she had $750 to $850 for everything else. Food, utilities, transportation, clothing, school expenses for 2 people. It was impossible. "Mrs. Williams," Marcus told me, "your electricity was shut off. Is that true?" She nodded, fresh tears coming. "Yes, Your Honor. I'm trying to save for the reconnection fee. I have about $180 saved. I need $280 plus the past due balance of $245. Total $525. I'm trying. I'm working as much as I can. I just can't get ahead." "Mrs. Williams, are you receiving any assistance? Food stamps, housing subsidies, anything?" "I applied for food stamps, but they said I make too much. I'm on a waiting list for housing assistance. I've been on it for 3 years. They say the wait is 5 to 7 years. This is the reality for working poor families. They make just enough to be disqualified from help, but not nearly enough to actually survive. They exist in a gap where society has abandoned them." I turned to Miss Reyes. "Contact the utility company. I want to know the exact amount needed to restore electricity to Mrs. Williams' address, and contact the school district. I want Marcus's lunch debt cleared, and I want him enrolled in the free lunch program immediately. His family qualifies even if the food stamp calculation says otherwise." I looked at Officer D'Angelo. "We have a court emergency fund. How much is currently in it?" "About $3,800, Your Honor. I want $525 released to pay Mrs. Williams's electricity reconnection and past due balance. Process it today so her power is back on by tomorrow." Marcus and his mother both gasped. "Your Honor, Mrs. Williams said, I can't. That's too much. I'll pay it back, I promise. Mrs. Williams, you'll pay nothing back. This fund exists for emergencies. Your family living without electricity while you work 60 hours a week is an emergency. It's why the fund exists." I turned to the gallery. "Anyone here want to contribute to helping this family?" Hands went up immediately. People started coming forward. A woman handed Miss Reyes $50. "For their groceries." A man gave $100. "For whatever they need." An elderly couple handed over $40. "It's what we have today. Within 10 minutes, $680 had been collected, the same amount that had been raised for Robert Chen months earlier. This courtroom was becoming a place where people saw each other's humanity and responded with generosity. "Marcus," I said, turning back to the teenager who was now crying openly, "here's what's going to happen. First, all charges against you are dismissed. You will have no criminal record from this. What you did was wrong, but it came from desperation, not malice. I'm not going to punish a child for being hungry. Second, you're going to accept Mr. Patterson's job offer. 10 hours a week, $12 an hour, plus $50 weekly store credit. You'll work hard, show up on time, and prove that when someone gives you a chance, you take it seriously. Third, this money collected from the community, $680, is going to your mother. She'll use it for food, for necessities, for whatever your family needs to get stable. Fourth, I'm personally going to call the Rhode Island Food Bank and arrange for your family to receive a weekly food delivery. And I'm going to contact Community Action Partnership to get your mother enrolled in utility assistance so your electricity doesn't get shut off again." I paused. "But Marcus, I need something from you in return." He looked up, nodding quickly. "Anything, Your Honor, anything. I need you to promise me 3 things. First, promise me you'll never steal again. No matter how hungry you are, no matter how desperate things get, you come to this courthouse and you ask for help. You call the food bank, you tell a teacher, you tell someone, but you don't steal. Deal?" "I promise, Your Honor. I swear I'll never steal again." "Second, promise me you'll graduate high school. You're a junior now. You've got a year and a half left. I don't care how hard it gets, you finish. Because education is the only way out of this cycle. Your mother is killing herself, so you have a chance at a better life. Don't waste that sacrifice. I promise. I'll graduate. I swear. Third, and this is the most important one, promise me that 10 years from now, when you're successful, when you've got a good job and a stable life, you'll remember this moment. And when you see someone struggling, someone hungry, someone desperate like you were today, you'll help them. You'll be the person who gives someone else a chance. That's how we break these cycles. Not with judgment, but with compassion. Promise me." Marcus was sobbing now, but he managed to say, "I promise, Your Honor. I promise I'll help others. I'll never forget this. Never." I put my hand on his shoulder. "You're a good kid, Marcus. You made a mistake, but one mistake doesn't define you. How you move forward from here, that's what defines you. Make me proud." I turned to his mother. "Mrs. Williams, you're raising a good son. The fact that he was more worried about burdening you than about his own hunger tells me everything I need to know about the values you've instilled in him. You're doing an incredible job under impossible circumstances. Let people help you. That's not weakness. That's community." She couldn't speak, just nodded and reached for her son. They hugged there in the courtroom, both crying, and I let them have that moment. Sometimes justice is less about laws and more about giving people space to be human. I returned to the bench. "This case is dismissed. All charges dropped. Mr. Patterson, thank you for your compassion and your job offer. Mrs. Williams, my staff will coordinate getting your electricity restored. Marcus, you report to Mr. Patterson's store next Monday after school to start your job. We're done here." The gavel fell, but before I could call the next case, something unexpected happened. Mr. Patterson walked over to Marcus and extended his hand. Marcus shook it, still crying. "You work hard for me, okay?" Mr. Patterson said. "You show up, you do good job, I help you. Maybe one day you have your own business. You remember this day and you help someone else." "I will, Mr. Patterson, thank you." "Thank you so much." The two of them, the store owner who'd been robbed and the teenager who'd robbed him, stood there shaking hands. And in that moment, I saw what justice really looks like when you strip away the bureaucracy and the punishment and get down to the human core. It looks like understanding. It looks like compassion. It looks like second chances. 3 months later, I received an email from Marcus's school. His grades had improved dramatically. He'd made honor roll for the first time. His attendance was perfect. His teachers reported that he seemed more focused, more engaged, more hopeful. Mr. Patterson sent me a note too. "Judge Caprio, Marcus is my best employee. He shows up early, works hard, never complains. Last week, he saw a young girl trying to steal a candy bar. Instead of telling me, he paid for it himself with his own money. Then he talked to her, asked if she was okay, if she needed help. He gave her my number and told her to call if she ever needed food. He's already keeping his promise to help others. You were right about him." 6 months after the hearing, Mrs. Williams got promoted to a supervisor position at the home health agency. With the higher pay and Marcus's income from the store, they moved to a better apartment. 2 bedrooms, reliable electricity, in a safer neighborhood. She sent me a photo of their first dinner in the new place. Marcus and his mother sitting at a small table with a full meal, both smiling. On the back of the photo she'd written, "Thank you for seeing my son's heart. Not just his mistake. You changed our lives." But here's what stayed with me most. A year after the hearing, Marcus came back to my courtroom, not for a citation, but as a volunteer. He'd started a program at his high school collecting food and supplies for students who couldn't afford them. He'd set up an anonymous system where kids could request what they needed without shame. He'd gotten local businesses to donate. He'd created exactly the kind of support he wished had existed when he was hungry. He came to ask if I'd help expand the program to other schools in the district. Of course I said yes, because that's the ripple effect of choosing compassion over punishment. Marcus Williams could have left my courtroom with a criminal record, with shame, with the message that society didn't care about his struggle. Instead, he left with hope, support, and the understanding that his circumstances didn't define him. Now he's helping other kids who are exactly where he was. He's breaking the cycle not just for himself, but for dozens of others. That's what justice should do. Not just punish wrongdoing, but address the root causes. Not just enforce laws, but transform lives. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel. Share it with educators, social workers, anyone who works with young people who might be struggling in silence. And remember, sometimes the kids who make mistakes aren't bad kids. They're good kids in bad situations who need help, not handcuffs. That 17-year-old shoplifter standing in my courtroom wasn't a criminal. He was a child who was hungry. And when we responded to his hunger with food instead of punishment, to his desperation with support instead of a criminal record, we didn't just help one teenager. We invested in the kind of man he would become. Marcus Williams is going to do great things with his life. I know that because I saw his character when he had every reason to be bitter and angry, and instead he chose gratitude and service. That's not something you can teach. That's something you nurture when you give people a chance. Every kid deserves that chance. Every kid deserves to be seen as more than their worst moment. Every kid deserves a courtroom that asks why before it says guilty. That's not soft justice. That's smart justice. And it's the only kind of justice I'm interested in dispensing. Court adjourned.